Would I do that again now? No, I would not.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Deep Drop for another episode. Luke McCredden here, and Adam, you are with me again as always. And mate, tonight we've got something a little bit different, a little bit special. But before we get into that, you know, we like to invite the new people onto the show to listen and tag along, but they sometimes don't know what it's about because they might hear an episode and go, what is going on here? So give us your rundown. You always do it best, mate. What is the Deep Drop?
Well, the general drift of the show is for the newcomers out there. Luke and I, we've spent a fair few years in the industry, both on a retail side, wholesale side, and also just regular fishers like everyone else. And basically, we ask dumb questions and we give even dumber answers. So have a listen. We've got a special guest this evening, which is going to be good to hear someone else's bullshit answers to these questions too, Luke.
Well, we've got some. We'd like to think we've got some specialists. Someone who knows what they're talking about, because I think people are getting a bit sick of us just waffling on. So without further ado, welcome to the great man, Dave Standing from Wind Against Tide. Dave, how you going?
Oh, I'm going great, boys. Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad to be here to see how two professionals actually go about things. So I'll be taking notes.
You're in the wrong place.
I hope you weren't expecting professionalism, because you might be disappointed.
It's a treat.
That's all right as well. We'll see what happens. We'll make do.
It's a treat to have you here, mate. We barged our way into your studio some time ago, so it's great to have you in here. And guys, I think we don't stuff around any longer. Let's jump right in, shall we?
Do it.
Sounds good, mate.
How do you know when to go big?
Sounds like a bit of a loaded question, Luke. So, Dave, a little bit of background on it. Well, Luke and I were discussing what we were going to ask you for this podcast. You're a bit of a specialist at targeting big species of fish, whether it be anything in Western Port, offshore, freshwater, which we've seen recently.
Look out.
When do you decide to fish for a big fish? So say snapper season's come along, there's as many 4 kilo fish as you want to catch, but you decide that you want to target a 20-pound fish. Or you're Mulloway fishing and you're like, okay, tonight's the night we're going to get a big one. What puts you in big fish mode?
I think, Adam, the default setting needs to be in your head. I want to chase big fish, if that's what you want to do. Because if you, for 1 second, think to yourself, I'd probably, maybe I will anchor a little bit deeper on those smaller school snapper, and then, at least I'll get a buckle and have a good time, and maybe a big one will come around. Well, likelihood is that you'll catch those smaller schoolfish. So if you have the one set mind, using snapper once again as an example, of just wanting to target a big fish, you're happy to miss out on catching the smaller school snapper, as we call them, then it's going to take a lot of patience and time, but eventually you will succeed. It's just a matter of whether you can last long enough to still be out there when that fish swims past.
Because I feel like it's a mental decision to say, because in some cases, like, and if we use tuna again, like, it's a different gear. You're using different gear a lot of the time too. So what are the cues? Like, what makes you go, you know what? I'm not taking some casting outfits or some lighter spinning outfits for tuna today. I'm putting in the 50 wides. We're going heavy because we want to target a big fish, but also we're confident there's a big fish around. Like, what makes you want to do that?
Well, it's probably a bit of a reflection of a few things. How often you're able to fish. I'm lucky enough I get to tuna fish quite often. So it's not a massive deal to me to forego chasing smaller schoolfish, which may be a bit more of a guarantee for that chance of one big fish, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
But there's still times where I'll be like, you know what? I've had a lean run. I need to play myself into play myself back into a bit of form here. I'm going to go out and just try and make the rods bend, and I'll go out and I'll have a good fun session on, snapper, tuna, whatever. Invariably, I fail at that as well, and that makes me even more sad. But it's just It's just having that focus, I suppose, which is, the same with anything in life. If you want to achieve great things, you got to put in a hell of a lot of effort.
I love that. It's like playing in the reserves before you play at senior level.
Yeah, that's right. Get the eye in, line of length, get all that sorted first.
You've been out with injury and you just want to come back. Get a few easy possessions. That's what it is.
Just a few cheap kicks.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, the one thing that's always fascinated me when we talk about potentially targeting bigger fish, I've been watching a fair bit of stuff lately, a lot of stuff from New Zealand, and seeing how they target big things, whether it's snapper or kingfish. They tend to fish a lot bigger baits than what we would. And I'm not just talking about live baits, I'm talking dead baits, anything that they want to do. It just tends to be to a different scale. And I also had a conversation with someone recently who just finished a big trip over in New Zealand catching those big kings over on Enchanter. And they were using baits that were potentially 2.5, 3 kilos. Like whether they're salmon or carwai, whatever they call them. And is that something that we could adopt more here? Or do we just not have a waterway or a system that's prone to it? Because particularly with kingfish, we hear that there's meter fish around, whether they're in Western Port Entrance, whether they're out at Port Phillip Heads, it doesn't matter. But you hear constantly from divers I saw big ones, or a fisherman catches a small king and there was 4 or 5 big ones behind it. Are we just fishing too small? Like, do we get obsessed with fishing small?
Potentially. Yeah, like you say, in New Zealand, they're fishing those big baits. There's no doubt about it. Their average size fish is enormous compared to ours. So yeah. I guess here we tend to fish those smaller baits in order to not cut out a lot of the normal size kingfish, which we see. But fish are pretty simple creatures. If they can fit it in their stomach, and even sometimes if they can't, they're going to eat it. In fact, sometimes I think running a bigger bait is advantageous when chasing big fish. I do it a little bit using tuna as the example. Like, we'll run 12 to 16 inch lures sometimes, which, they're made for giant blue marlin, but these bluefin, they'll scoff them down, and they've had all kinds of crazy stuff in their stomachs, big cuttlefish, barracuda, whiting, leather jackets, just, anything they can fit in their mouths, they're going to eat it. And I think it's the same thing with kingfish. Like, we've all seen stuff like penguin and, whatnot in kingfish stomach. So if they can catch it and eat it, they're going to. And yeah, that's exactly right. A big bait's probably going to weed out a lot of the smaller fish if you've got the balls to run it.
This is a separate question again, and maybe we can bring it up in another episode. But even just that question of kingfish, for example, do we have the big size jumbo kingfish that they do? Certainly not in the numbers they do in New Zealand. I mean, the average fish over on places like those Ranfurly Banks, and that adds up. The average is probably 20 kilos, or a rat is probably 15. But yeah, it would surprise me if we didn't have some XL kingfish around. But it's just, again, probably a case of, do you target those differently? And if so, do you forego catching anything just at the odd chance of getting a bite from one of these monsters? But I also agree a bit in that these big fish will still hit the gear that you're targeting smaller fish on as well, I would have thought. So right place, right time for a lot of it, I reckon. But certainly watching yourself, Dave, and the Wind Against Tide channel and listening to your podcast, tuna, snapper, things like that, it does seem like it's a mental decision to go, I want to chase a big fish and potentially, aim for one, as opposed to going out and catching 10 smaller fish.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, sometimes that can be a really hard grind. Like, there was a couple of years there where we decided we wanted to catch Mulloway, and there was 3 or 4 months of probably not sleeping, going to work on no sleep, like literally exhausted. But we caught fish. And would I do that again now? No, I would not. But I probably won't catch Mulloway now because I'm just simply not putting the time in. Yeah. So you got to weigh up how badly you really want it. I've found as I've gotten older, I've probably wanted it less.
You've also become a father recently, and sleep all of a sudden becomes absolute gold.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely correct there. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, Ads. I mean, the question, how do you know when to go big? I guess it seems like a conscious decision, and you know when you just want to go do it because it's something you've got to decide consciously. I'm going to go do that, and maybe sacrifice a slower day of fish in general just to hopefully get that one bite. Is that where you're landing, Ads?
Yeah, I think it's a funny concept because you essentially want to target those big fish for the ego hit, but you've got to put the ego aside to actually concentrate on targeting them because you will reduce the catch potentially, depending on what it is. You could reduce your overall catch to try and get that one trophy. So yeah, I think it's more of the answer is probably mindset. That's what I've learned from what Dave's just been saying. You can go and target them all you want, but you've got to be prepared to put in hours, catch nothing consistently, or deal with bycatch to try and get them. But the rewards are exactly what you're seeking.
I've got a question for you two on the back of that.
Oh shit!
I wasn't prepared for this.
Do you think it even matters catching trophy fish, or if you're having a good time catching lots of smaller ones, is that what's important? Is it just a big ego thing?
Yeah, I mean, no, like I'm doesn't matter to me at all, mate. No, I think I'm at the part of that part of your life when you just appreciate it when you get it. I take the kids out now a lot, so sometimes toadfish and blue throat wrasse are as exciting as a 100-kilo tuna. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I think it's still probably on the cards for people that they want to tick off big fish. So I guess to that, it is important for those people. But I mean, if you're asking personally, not so much at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same with you. Like the big fish, I can't think of something that I'm so hooked on or a species I'm so hooked on at the moment that I want to put that time away just to try and target a big one. And to be honest, I've never got to that point with any of the species that I like to target. And it's exactly what you're saying, Dave. I just haven't had the drive to put in the hours required to make it happen. I'm happy to go and catch a few smaller ones, and if you get a good one, that's fine. Or, spend the time being productive rather than being 100% laser focused the whole time, making sure that everything's aligned to get that trophy.
I did hook a big seal recently. Does that count? It would have been 100 kilos easy.
That's pretty good.
Well, I think, Luke, the question is, did you go out there specifically targeting a big seal, or, were you just happy the seal came along?
No, I was targeting smaller seals. They taste better.
Yeah.
No, you must have been running a big bait to get the big seal.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on from that. Love it. Are Mulloway more achievable than we think?
Oh, this is probably, Luke, you and I had a bit of a chat previously to recording this about what we were going to ask Dave, and this is the question of all questions for me, because Mulloway have been a species that peaked hard probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, and every rec angler wanted to fish Western Port to catch Mulloway. Some people did really well. Some people fished once, thought this is way too hard. Some people, Dave did the 3 nights in a row for nothing and thought these fish don't exist. But I would say it's died off. And I think it's because they are hard to catch.
When you say peak, though, are you talking about popularity?
Popularity. Everyone was talking about them. There seem to be a lot more anglers than what there are currently even trying to target them or talking about targeting them. And I guess, Dave, where the question comes from is, are they just as bloody hard to catch as what everyone says? Or is it easy enough to work out patterns and then it's discipline? Or, I mean, can you catch the stupid things during the day? Like you were saying, to target them, you went without sleep for months on end trying to work it out. Does that have to be done? Like, are they an accessible fish, or do you really have to choose to go after them hard?
No, I don't think you have to go in the at night. That was just because I was going after work, but it is traditionally a very good time to target them. Quiet nights on the water, but yeah, they are definitely an achievable fish if you crack the code like you were saying. You can work out patterns, but at the same time, I know guys that have caught hundreds of them, and they'll go for 20, 30 fishing trip streaks and still not catch one. Personally, I don't think the Mulloway numbers are as good as they were a few years ago. As sad as that is to say, they've copped a lot of pressure up the east coast from netters and various other things. And yeah, in my opinion, it could be wrong, but just from what I've seen throughout the last few years, I don't think their numbers are super healthy. They're definitely still there. You can definitely still catch them, but yeah, they are very, very tough fish.
With your opinion, Dave, back yourself, because it's going to be way more qualified than anything Adam and I have said in the last 28 episodes. Hey, in all honesty, though, has there been any sort of, that we know of, and I'm happy to dive into this, post this show and maybe share some feedback on Instagram, but has there been much research from fisheries into things like Mulloway in places like Western Port, or as just far as numbers and that sort of thing? We know some of the estuaries in, I think, New South Wales, they did some stocking and have talked about it in Victoria, but I'd love to know if there's been any sort of data come out of places like Western Port or Port Phillip Bay as well. We know they're floating around in there at certain times. Do you guys know of anything that's been done?
Well, they did stock them into Lake Tyers a little. I don't know exactly how long ago, but within the last 5 years.
Yep.
But I just don't think they're a species that are necessarily. We would see huge benefits from stocking programs. They can be very nomadic. They'll definitely school up and go offshore and find other places to go. So I don't know if there's been any backup studies, say for those ones at Lake Tyers.
Yeah.
Whether they've recaptured any, whether they've been in the system itself, whether they've been up on the south coast, New South Wales, or they went west. I really don't know.
One of the things that piqued my interest about this question, and Dave, I don't know where you're at with this, but like I think about Mulloway in places like Glenelg River down in the far western part of Victoria, and they're a very accessible fish with live baits, lures, all an assortment of sort of lure fishing options. I look at somewhere like the top end of Western Port and that sort of area, and it's very much similar in a lot of ways to some of those estuary systems. Is anyone putting time in, or do you think, from your experience, Dave, is it worth someone putting in time in to work out a good tide and go flick some plastics around?
Yeah, I've actually been having this conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Mitch Chapman, who he does catch Mulloway, but he'll never tell you about it.
He can't catch them.
He'll only tell you about it a few years later, and it'll be a blurred background.
Yeah, the lightning in the background. We've touched on this, Luke.
But no, 100%. I think that they're definitely catchable in Westport with lures, and especially now with the invention of live scope. Like, what a game changer that would be.
Yeah, great call.
There are obvious issues with weed and stuff floating through the water at Western Port being so tidal and a bit of a dirty water runoff. But there's a lot of those estuaries up north, New South Wales, Queensland. They've got a lot of current running through them, and guys have worked out ways to fish them. In fact, the Mulloway are often in those eddies and backwaters, hiding out of that current. So if people want to put the time in, I think 100%, and it's something that I'm actually really keen. It's reinvigorated my Mulloway enthusiasm a little bit. So I'm keen to give that a go, for sure.
Awesome. I'm keen to keep an eye on it, and anyone listening, Wind Against Tide, I'm sure Dave will share some of his adventures chasing some Mulloway on there, or will he? But what's the big? I've gone blank. The big system in just near Sydney there, or
is it the Hawkesbury?
The Hawkesbury. I mean, there's a lot of. I don't know if you've spent any time in there, but I've been there a couple of times, and it like the tide pumps hard through that system, and I just think there's a lot of sort of similarities between it and a place like Western Port, and we've seen some of the Mulloway that come out of the Hawkesbury like just monsters, and on lures and live baits, and I don't know, I just think this is why this question really pricked my ears up, because I just think there has to be some sort of scope to really crack an amazing lure fishery, or just fishery in general of Mulloway in Western Port.
Yeah,
or even just a lure fishery in Western Port. I mean, everyone's been throwing soft plastics and bits and pieces into Port Phillip for forever, because it's just a hell of a lot easier with the tide. But if you have a look, especially that sort of northern and eastern side of Western Port, where there's a lot of drains, there's a lot of sweeping mud flats that we know through years of seeing people catch the biggest snapper you've ever seen in a couple of meters of water up on those flats during the right time of year. It's actually, it's insane that Western Port hasn't developed its own little lure fishery on its own. I just think it's a mindset thing of Victorians that it's so insanely tidal. Why would you bother?
Imagine this. Imagine getting up on those shallow sand flats in low light conditions, or mud flats, sorry, and casting like a cranker crab or something and just working that along. Like, how exciting would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd pick up gummies and stuff doing that.
Oh,
For sure.
I've even thought about that as just even a snapper lure fishery, that top part and that eastern part, exactly as you spoke about their ads, because I just feel like that lends itself to really becoming and even in some of the shallow parts, we know the snapper get right up hard in their feeding. There's potential to catch snapper on top water up there. Seriously.
Well, if you could work out when they push that far or that high in there, I'm sure it'd have to correspond with some sort of spawning activity of the crab and shrimp and bits and pieces on those sand flats. It wouldn't be that hard to work out. But I tell you what, if I saw someone holding up like a hefty snapper with the top water in its mouth, far out.
Yeah,
that's big time.
You'd ask for a video, wouldn't you? Proof,
100%.
Do you reckon there's potential that people out there that might be listening have already cracked this code and dominate that whole area, doing exactly what we're talking about, and are sitting there going, "Shut up, please"?
Well, potentially, but I refuse to believe that we wouldn't have seen it on social media.
Yeah, true. The egos pop out eventually.
At some point.
Yeah, that's right. Not yet. It could have happened 3 years ago, and we'll probably see it in the next year or so.
Yeah.
Hey, this could be a good one. It could be a good one to throw to the Instagram friends, Adam. We like to throw some of our questions back to them to give us their thoughts. But having said that, we might hear donuts and crickets as well, because it could be something that is being held close to people's chest, and that's okay. We never ask people to share their secrets, but love to hear people's thoughts on it. The Deep Drop Instagram is where you'll find all of our questions that we go through on the show. Are Mulloway more achievable than we think? Let us know on that one. Give us your thoughts. Tell us why and what you think, how you think it could be achievable. I'd love to hear it, because ultimately we're just a couple of punters sitting around having a yarn about it. Well, we do have Dave here, though, and makes a lot more sense of these conversations than we do.
You're overselling it.
Is fishing solo as fulfilling as fishing with a friend?
This is the perfect question for you, Dave, because I remember fondly listening to podcasts, seeing the photos at the time, hearing the stories at the time of when you went out solo and caught a swordfish.
If I must speak about it, I will. That's
insane.
It was actually, that memory came up. It was today, the anniversary.
Oh, no way.
Shit.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't planned for anyone listening. That's complete
weird.
and pure bullshit.
That is
Freakish.
100% just fluke. That is so weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Swordfish, probably the one thing I thought might not be solo fishery, but as it happened, I had no friends that day. So I went on my own, and these things happen for a reason, don't they? Because first drop, hooked up and landed a 107 kilo swordfish, and it can't get much more fulfilling than that.
Nah.
That's insane.
That is
But
incredible.
was it weird? So fast forward, like at the end, you got sword on the deck on your own. Did it feel weird where you kind of looked around for someone to high five and there was no one?
It's like you're like in a dream state when these things happen. Like, and it was first. I got out there and caught it on the first drop as well. So it was just like, geez, everything's going quite well here. But you can't even call your mates because you're so far out. There's no phone reception. But you know what? That's a good thing, because sometimes you need these moments of quiet reflection to really let it sink in before you're able to distract yourself with mobile phones and that sort of thing. And it's a memory I'll cherish forever. And I think solo fishing in general definitely can lend itself to that. I know you guys do a fair bit of it, so yeah, it's I think it's a good thing, the solo angling.
It's a great call, actually, and it is something that I probably didn't think about as much. But we've all done it. We've all spent plenty of time fishing on our own, and you're right. There is something where, for a moment, it is just you and what you've achieved, and you sort of go, "That's really cool. I've put in a bit of effort, done that," and it's like, this is what it's all about, Like, yeah.
Well,
just
that's
taking me
that's
there.
kind of the thing. That's for us that really enjoy fishing. That is the outlet. So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong and there's nothing better. And some of my fondest fishing memories are with a group of mates or a mate or whatever. And you have those sessions and you're having a laugh even when you're catching nothing, and you can still have a laugh. But there's something about there's that time to yourself. You're still doing something productive. You've got something to concentrate on, but you can literally do everything at your own pace.
Yep.
You can go as hard or as soft as you want to go. You can just go for a flick for squid. You can go 100 miles offshore chasing swordfish. You can do whatever you want when you want to do it. And that's kind of hard. It's hard to find things like that in the craziness of what's going on with everyone's life and the world and work and kids and family. That time alone can be so unbelievably beneficial, just to slow down and do everything at your pace.
Fuck, this got deep.
That was
It did.
very well said, Adam.
This is fucked for our podcast.
What are we doing?
And
What
I
have you
actually,
done to us, Dave?
I actually think fishing solo, sometimes you're fishing more efficiently or effectively, because when you got mates with you, the temptation is, I'll catch some fish. I just want to catch some fish for my mates, so we can have a good time and a laugh. If I'm on my own, I don't give a shit. I'll sit there and catch nothing all night in the hopes that one rod will go off and be that one dream fish. So there is that element of it being a more efficient method to hunt big fish as well, and it is a different experience than to high fives with your mates and all that sort of thing, as we've already discussed.
There is that part of trying to satisfy everyone that's with you, even if everyone on board an experienced angler, so you don't have to necessarily try and catch them a fish, but you don't want to. You want everyone to have a good time. You want everyone to be catching and whatnot. But I do remember going back a few years now, going out with the pure intention to catch some calamari out into Port Phillip Bay, just to catch some squid, to live bait those squid to try to catch some snapper. And to your point, Dave, I think it was really hard to try and twist people's mind to want to do that. It was very much just take a block of pillies out and go your hardest sort of thing. But I was like, nah, I want to mix it up and try this. And so being able to do that was great because I could do it solo. But I'd also, same trip, remember, getting 3 or 4 squid, dropping the first 2 down and catching really solid snapper straight away, being over the moon, and then thinking, fuck, it would have been good to have someone here. Because it was just a bit like, all right, now what? So there's a double whammy with that. And there's also the element of, we do live in the world of wanting to take a good photo and maybe a little video here and there. So it's really hard to do on your own, although, technology is evolving. But I don't know. I'm really on the fence with this one because I think there's everything we've discussed about the, really grounding part of fishing on your own and getting back to what it is that you love to do and just enjoying that, being in the moment with that time. But there's also love nothing more than a bit of shit talking on a boat, watching someone drop a fish and just giving it to them for the next hour. And then the high fives and cracking a beer with a couple of mates on board is pretty cool too. So,
well, Dave, with that sword, from the point that you launched the boat that morning to the point that you had the sword on the deck, was there any time you thought, fuck doing this on my own?
When I went to go out that morning, a boat had been out all night and they came in and they were like, oh, don't go out, mate. It's bloody horrible out there. They'd spent all night in the rough, seasick, vomiting, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, really? Oh. So I'm like, I'm already here. I'll put the boat in and I'll just go out and I'll just see. And if it's crap, I'll turn around. But as luck would have it, it was calming off that morning.
No, turns out they were pussies, Luke. That's what he wants to say.
that's what I'm hearing.
I've been out there at night in the rough. It's absolutely horrible. Vomiting.
Ooh, yeah.
Would not ever do that one again.
No.
Word to the wise. But, so I went out there and thankfully everything went really smoothly, and it's just I'm thankful that that was something I experienced on my own, because I'll probably never do it again. Those circumstances will probably never line up like that again. I probably won't want to pay for all the fuel on my own again.
It's rough now.
There's one part of fishing on your own that you don't want to do anymore if you're a boat owner.
Yeah, exactly.
You need someone to chip in for that fuel. Jesus Christ. But mate, I think I think we've summarised pretty well there. I think when I first thought about this and we're going to chat about it, I thought there was going to be a resounding sort of fishing with mates is better. But I think fishing with solos every bit as good as fishing with a group of friends if you enjoy it and take it for what it is.
Maybe you got to do one to appreciate the other.
Ooh.
Oh, that's deep.
A trip with mates to appreciate your mates not being there, annoying you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Dave, can you put bait on my hook for me?
Yeah.
It's gross.
Got a bit of a tangle here, Dave.
How good are you at retying leaders, Dave?
Too good,
I've got a
as it
snag
turns out.
again, Dave. I'm snagged.
This spot's shit.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they're normally a bit more switched on than that, but yeah.
I love it. Dave, thanks so much, mate. I think this has been an absolute blast having you on the show, and I hopefully people out there have enjoyed it. I'm sure they will. Finally hearing someone who speaks a bit of sense about fishing.
Bit of sense, yeah.
And as always, I think this is actually this last topic's a great one for the Instagram people, Adam, just to get on and tell us what your thoughts is. Fishing is fulfilling solo as it is with friends, and I think that we'll get a whole range of different sort of opinions on this one, which is great.
Yeah, I'm tipping a 50-50 split on this. I reckon it's if you actually stop and think about it, the answer's not that clear.
Nah. It's just you know what? Fishing's the winner here.
Oh fucking hell.
Hey.
Hey, actually,
There we go.
Now, I've got a few things before we wrap this up. One is the fact that Dave Standing, Wind Against Tide, what a legend, thank you very much. Secondly, Dave, please tell me that you've been on Spotify not only to listen to the Deep Drop, but to listen to the Deep Drop Fishing Tunes playlist.
Mate, I've got it loaded up in the phone, ready for my next road trip. Don't you worry.
Yes.
You're a liar.
Hey, just so you know, Wind Against Tide's had a playlist on there for bloody donkey's years. No, it's probably
Is it
about a year.
actually?
Yeah.
Really?
One of the guys made it. One of our good mates that listens to the show actually made it for us. And I believe it's quite different to yours. You've got a bit of a heavy metal twang.
Yes.
We've got a bit of a Miley Cyrus. That
Nice.
that line of musical talents. You know, some real G-up songs. So,
Okay. Well,
you know,
subscribing as we speak.
so the two playlists
yeah.
contrast nicely. You know, you can listen to our one, and then when you feel like a bit of head bobbing or heavy metal thrashing, go over and listen to the Deep Drop.
well, what's it called? What's yours called?
That's a good question. I think it's great
plug.
I think it's WATT Wind Against Tide Tunes or something.
Oh,
WATT.
Jesus.
Yeah. Hey, well, how about we'll just put a link up on the social.
Let's put a link up.
Yeah,
'cause
let's
I
do
can't-
that.
I'm confused.
Yeah,
let's
let's do
put a
that.
link up. So that's awesome. There's a couple of playlists to listen to. Ours will knock your socks off, and Dave's will put you in a bit of a zen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
But again, before we go, Adam, you've prepared something special for Dave tonight.
Yeah, I have, Dave, rapid fire. So I'm going to fire 8 questions at you in quick succession. Just the first thing that pops to your head, all right?
Yeah.
First
Don't
thing that
overthink
pops to your
it.
head.
This could
Don't
this
overthink
could
it.
become quite inappropriate.
Yes,
Got a-
that's
Well,
fine.
that's
I've got
the
a
plan.
suspect mind.
Yeah, that's the
we,
plan.
we encourage it. We encourage it.
All right, you ready? Ready?
Yep, go.
We got Luke, all good? All right.
Yeah, I'm just sipping my cider. I apologise for that. I just
Do you want to
Yeah,
edit that? Do you want to edit that out and change it to beer? Or?
It's Summersby too. It's not even a hardcore one.
yeah. Can we just get an edit there? Thanks.
All right, here we go. Question 1. What weight defines a barrel tuna?
Oh, 100 kilo.
Yes, correct. Number 2, Western Port or Western Port Bay?
Western Port.
Nice. See, good guess, Luke. You Nailed
This
it.
is great. This is good.
Can you hold a mate's fish for a photo?
No.
Good.
Unless they're also in the photo with you.
No.
No, we'll edit that out.
Someone will find an example of me holding a fish now.
Yeah. There's no right or wrongs, by the way, but we are literally critiquing you as you go.
Yeah, that's right. I said there is right and wrong answers for these.
I can see
number-
someone ticking. What's the
Number 4, is catching a fish a bonus?
No.
Yeah,
No. I'm there to catch fish.
correct.
I love it.
Would fishing in a marine park be as productive as we think?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know from first-hand experience, though.
Yeah, so I've been told. Yeah. If you could introduce one foreign species into Australia, what would it be?
Those big rooster fish.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, we're taking that.
I'd love one of them.
Yeah, 100%. I think we actually discussed fishing like Gunnamatta Back Beach, just walking along, flicking at roosters. How good would that be?
Imagine that.
Imagine.
That'd be the best.
Yeah.
Global warming might deliver some our way, maybe?
We can only hope. Should fishing be in the Olympics?
No.
Wrong.
No.
Oh, well,
Come on, we're not sports people. We're drinking beers and getting fat on boats.
And we can turn that into a sport. Final question. Is a scenery pick code for court fuck all?
Yeah. 100%. Or a depth sounder photo.
or a shot of the outboards from in the cabin.
That's right.
Yep.
Oh, mate, that's brilliant. Well done. I think you've ticked all the boxes there, Dave. Ads, you satisfied with that?
Yeah, no, pass Luke. He's definitely welcome back.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks, boys.
Hey, thanks so much. People, thanks for listening, everyone. We love having you on board the Deep Drop, but don't forget to jump across to Wind Against Tide. Check
Definitely.
out what the guys are doing every week. It's all live. It's all very, very relevant as opposed to what Adam and I talk about.
It's just complete horseshit.
We're terrible at promoting our own show ads. But, hopefully people realise that we're just enjoying fishing for what it is, which is just a hobby, and it's a great pastime that we're a part of, and we're lucky enough to be involved at various levels, as you've said at the top of the show ads. So we feel very fortunate about the position we're in with this great pastime that is fishing. But that's us for another week, and once again, Dave, thank you so much.
Thanks, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure. I listen every week. Love the podcast. You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for reading that off the script. We appreciate it.
Yeah, nailed it.